Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I have just finished watching episode 5 of The Bad Batch, and I really liked this one. Quite a few interesting things to talk about. Okay, so first off, I want to say this because I'll forget to talk about it later. There is a very quick scene. It happens like within a matter of like 3 seconds. We see that Wrecker still has a headache. And he's rubbing his head and he's like, oh, and they're like, what's the matter? He's like, oh, nothing. And then he walks to the back of the ship. And they don't bring it up for the rest of the episode. And of course, this is the continued like, oh, Wrecker has a headache. Does that mean something's going on with his chip? Or did he just hit his head during the crash? Now, 2 episodes ago, he did hit his head during the crash. He did. I rewound it and I watched it again. I was like, yep, he definitely hit his head. And everyone was like, does this mean that his chip's gonna activate? Does this mean he's gonna lose control? What's up with that? And I was on that same, on that same boat, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And then last episode, it was not brought up at all. And I was like, okay, maybe it was nothing. Maybe nothing's gonna come of this. It was just like he just got a headache and he stayed on the ship for that one episode and that was it. But now it's back. Now the headache is back, and they very intentionally like had one of them ask like, what's up with you? And he's like, oh, nothing. This is now confirmed to be a reoccurring thing. It was not a one-off like, oh, I guess it's nothing. Like now it's okay, now it's something that's gonna happen here. It's interesting that it's not like an immediate thing, it's just happening every other episode. So like maybe it's just gonna slowly happen, and the more hits he takes, which he takes quite a few hits this episode, maybe the more damage he takes to his head, the closer he comes to losing control. Very interesting. Anyways, so I had to talk about that real quick because all the other stuff that happens in this episode, I'll forget to come back to this. So yeah, the headaches are a thing. They'll be brought up again, I'm sure. And yeah, I guess we're back on the train now. I'm back on the train. Wrecker might lose control, and it might get dramatic. I'll say that. So anyways, very cool. So they end up going to I forget the name of which planet they're on, and they're basically looking for this Jedi contact. By the way, obviously full spoilers. I didn't even say that, but obviously, if you haven't watched the episode, why are you watching this? Anyways, they go looking for this Jedi contact named Sid. They have no idea what this person looks like. And we get this interesting moment where they're all kind of debating, like, they walk in, they ask the barkeep, it seems like, this, they're called Trandoshans, right? The Bosk species. I'm not good with species names in ships and stuff like that, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff where I'm like, I'll have to describe it. Anyways, the Trandoshans, I believe, is what they're called. They ask this Trandoshan barkeep, like, are you Sid? And they're like, oh, never heard of him. And then we get this interesting moment where Omega's just sitting around pressing buttons, messing around with, little things on the wall like kids would do. And then she kind of looks over at the barkeep, and then she walks up to her and is like, you're Sid. And then the barkeep's like, oh yeah, you must be the smart one. You're the brains of the operation. So is this another indication that Omega is force sensitive? She was able to just look over at the barkeep and know instantly, like, no, yeah, that's the person we're looking for. I mean, they keep on giving us these little moments, and each of them seem explainable a different way. Maybe she just kind of figured it out somehow, but it also definitely seems like, or she sensed it with the force, you know what I mean? So look, I'm still on that train as well, that Omega is definitely some kind of force sensitive in some form or another. For me, it's a pattern that I'm seeing. She senses people, and she can tell things that are gonna happen, and she, like she did it with Crosshair, and she's doing it here with Sid. She can she feels it, So I definitely, she's force sensitive. I think that's still a thing. Anyways, so they figure out that that's Sid, and Sid basically says, okay, well, I can't tell you who this bounty hunter is that was chasing you last episode, Finnick Shand. So they're trying to figure out who that is, or who hired her. But Sid does say, look, I'll look up the information for you, but you got to do a job for me. There's a kid named Moochie. Is it Moochie or Mochi? I think it was Moochie. Anyways, there's a kid named Moochie who's been taken by slavers. Now this is the same slaver species that we saw in the Clone Wars. I think they're called Zygarians. Again, not good with species names. And I don't know if any of these specific Zygarians are the ones that we saw in Clone Wars. I don't remember a lot about that arc. It's not my favorite arc, but anyways. So they have to go to this planet. I think it's Ord Mantell. And they have to basically rescue this kid. And they see a kid there. And it's the same species of like the Black Sun Syndicate, you know, like those green colored people. And they see a kid there and they're like, okay, that must be Moochie, right? And of course they're speaking a different language, so they're not able to say anything, because big twist here, as it turns out, Moochie is not that little kid. Moochie is a adolescent Rancor that the slavers have trapped inside this cage. So the whole crew gets captured, and Omega has to try and free them, and in order to create a distraction, she ends up letting go of this creature that was in a giant cage, and it is Moochie the Rancor. And you kind of get an idea of where this is headed immediately, because we cut back to the bar where Sid is talking to a mysterious person speaking Huttese on a hologram, and you're like, okay, I see where this is going. You see like the bottom of this person's face, and you're like, that's definitely Bib Fortuna. And yes, Moochie the Rancor is Jabba the Hutt's Rancor that of course Luke Skywalker will one day kill. But anyways, they let Moochie go, and they causes this great distraction, and it's actually pretty awesome, because we see this like baby Rancor basically take out all the slavers. It gets in a fight with the slavers' dragon lizard thing that was like kicking everyone's butt, right? So we see it get in a fight with that, and then we see basically in order to subdue the Rancor, they have to challenge it for dominance. And so Wrecker gets in there and he gets in a fight with the Rancor. Now this is Wrecker, he kind of gets beat up a little bit, but he actually, he stands his own against a baby Rancor, which I guess makes sense. He's able to throw rocks at it, and they're kind of trading punches until they both tire out, and that's basically how they are able to take Moochie and I guess safely get it on the ship, because I guess it just kind of submitted like, all right, Wrecker wins, I'm tired, which is good, because like, let's be honest, I think Wrecker needed a win. Like, it feels like for several episodes now, Wrecker just keeps on getting his butt kicked, and I'm glad that he was able to at least, like, okay, he can subdue this baby Rancor. This works, But again, Wrecker getting hit by this Rancor, it's like, is this getting his headache thing closer to making him lose control? It's gonna happen. We've established that it's a thing now. It's a pattern. It's not just like a one-off thing. So anyways, they of course end up going back to Sid's, and they give the Rancor to Bib Fortuna, and he's there with a couple of Gamorrean guards, and they establish that, like, yes, this is Bib Fortuna. They don't say his name, but they're like, yeah, this is Jabba's right-hand man, and this is his Rancor. And basically it ends with Sid saying, okay, that was Finnick Shand. She's got the intel for him. That was Finnick Shand, and here's your cut of the money from Bib Fortuna, and if you want any future jobs, you just come to me. And basically like, hey, if Finnick Shand was after you, you must be worth a lot of money. And Hunter kind of gives her this look like, oh man, you're gonna betray us, aren't you? And Sid's like, no, I'm not gonna betray you, I'm good at keeping secrets. So you get like the unspoken kind of words there that like, hey, you keep doing jobs for me as mercenaries, which, by the way, before the show started, part of the description of the show is that they're supposed to be mercenaries, right? So you kind of get like the unspoken words here that like, all right, keep doing jobs for me as mercenaries, you'll get paid, and I'll keep your secret, you know, because now they've kind of proven themselves to be competent as mercenaries for her, right? So it definitely seems that if they kind of get on Sid's bad side, or if they were to say, no, we don't need any of this, Sid could easily just hire someone else to go capture them, and then they would get paid for that, you know. So pretty interesting stuff. Also, one other thing before I move on to my final thoughts here, there is a moment when they're heading to Ord Mantell when they're all kind of discussing what slavery is. They're telling Omega like, oh yeah, it's when someone owns another person and sells them or whatever for money. And Omega's like, well, that seems wrong, you know, treating other people like property, right? And then Echo's like, yeah, that is wrong, and we're gonna stop it. And then I couldn't help but think, like, the clones are often described, especially by the Kaminoans, as just Kaminoan property, and they were sold to the Republic to be their clone army. And they're also conditioned, you know, especially with the chips activated, you know, and I'm just saying, like, the clones are not unsimilar to slaves, you know what I mean? So I don't know, just an interesting thought of clones who were considered property and then sold and are now like conditioned to do this job of loyalty to, I don't know, it's just interesting to think about, like, clones are kind of slaves, aren't they? You know, like, and it's just another one of these things where it's like, it doesn't get brought up a lot, and I don't feel like a lot of people think about it that way, but like, are the clones just slaves? Like, you know, and maybe it's one of those things where it's like, you know, this is kind of why, what's his name? The guy who left and started a family, it's kind of why he left in the first place. You know, if you remember the very first episode when Rex meets him, you know, he's like, I abandoned my post because it's like, why am I doing this? Because I was sold to the Republic? Like, what is it? Why? You know, I don't know. Very interesting to think about. A lot of moral questions going on here now. You know, I'm like, this, you know, and you think about like the Jedi were kind of cool with just having these clones who, the clones never like agreed to do this, did they? You know what I mean? Like they were just programmed to be loyal, but like, are, you know, like, how, what is free will? You know what I mean? It's like interesting, like, anyways, I thought that was worth bringing up. But yeah, so it looks like they're finally gonna be fulfilling the kind of mercenary roles that the descriptions before the show came out were giving them. So I imagine that Sid is going to be a very reoccurring character who's like, hey, I got another job for you, here's some more money and stuff like that, because that's the thing, is that they consistently need supplies and they need money, and this is pretty much going to be the most stable way for them to get that on a consistent basis. So that makes a lot of sense. Now what they need to do, I mean, I know they have a ship, but they need to establish like a base somewhere where they can, like, because they're constantly going from planet to planet, and they need to find a place where, like, okay, this can be our home for now, and then we'll go do jobs when we need to, you know. But anyways, yeah, so they're kind of just dealing with this Fennec Shand thing. They're trying to discover who hired her, which no one knows. Sid doesn't know that. I'm pretty sure it's still the Kaminoans. That seems like the most obvious one, especially when Fennec was specifically targeting Omega. But they don't know that yet. They don't know that Omega was specifically the target. But yeah, in any case, very cool episode. And, you know, now that I kind of like Mochi, the Rancor, you know, now watching Return of the Jedi, and then you see the, what's his name? I forget his name. The big guy, one of Jabba's guards. He starts crying. He's like the Rancor caretaker. He starts crying because the Rancor dies, now I feel more like that guy than ever, because now it's gonna be like, oh, Moochie, oh man, Moochie's dead. Luke Skywalker, you monster! I can't believe you killed Moochie. You know, and now I'm gonna feel bad for the Rancor, like more bad than I ever did before. Like I always felt a little bad when I watched that scene in Return of the Jedi, because like it's just a animal, you know, like it didn't have any say on doing this. It was just kind of chained up down there and being told to eat whatever falls down the hole, you know, like that's what it's told to do. So now I feel even more bad because now I've seen it as like a child basically, and it kind of became friends with the Bad Batch, and man, way to make me feel bad again, Star Wars. Anyways, never thought I'd feel bad for the Rancor, but now I do, or even more bad than I did before. Anyways, so yeah, pretty fun episode. I enjoyed this a lot. I feel like this was like this was a step up, I feel like, from maybe the last episode or two, because it feels like we, you know, while we still didn't visit Crosshair and the Empire and that whole section pretty much at all, it did feel like this was a good level of, hey, they're on a new planet, they have to do a new mission, and they're still kind of like in this, you know, in this the major plot has not progressed a whole lot. Like they're still trying to just figure things out, and they haven't like gotten to the next major plot beat. But you know, along with like fun action stuff, we actually got like a little bit of like, oh hey, here's some more Star Wars lore to throw in there. Here's, I don't know if the name of the Rancor had ever been established before this, you know, but like this is kind of what I want, you know, like if you're gonna have episodes where not a lot happens in the major like A plots of like, hey, Crosshair and the Empire and all that stuff, then at least give us little tidbits of like, oh, here's some Star Wars lore that'll like, you know, like let you think about things that happened in other movies and stuff. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this episode. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let me know how bad you feel about the Rancor now, because now I'm like, oh damn it, Luke Skywalker, damn you for killing Moochie. Anyways, yeah, so let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.